I'm doing in ABB, I'm actually looking at, well, digitalization and from the perspective of strategy and architectures. And what I would like to do now is to give you a little bit a journey into the future, trying to give you a perspective of what we think will be the industrial landscape in the future. And basically we started like 10 years ago when we saw all of these things sort of touching us happen. And really we started to try to figure out what is really the meaning of why are we here, in a way. Why are we working? We had been working for 30 years with, well, you could say automation systems. And now suddenly everyone started to work with automation systems. And then we started to think that maybe there is sort of a higher purpose with what we are doing, so that we know that if we are going to transform, what are we going to do then? So what we saw after a few years of trying to figure this out was that really the purpose of what we were doing for our customers was really to try to solve a problem that the industry has. And that problem you could basically show it like this, and it was really a problem of getting people, systems and equipment to collaborate. And this we had been working with for 30 years, but we didn't really know that. We thought we were just working with equipment, getting a valve and a pump to collaborate to actually get the flow through a pipe and get to stir what was in the tank, etc., etc. But when we took a step back, we understood that this is really what we are working with. And the reason why we saw this was actually because we sort of created a solution that looked a little bit like this. We took all the, you could say, the applications, the apps that was used in the industry, and we plugged them together and into a platform. And then we gave this information from all of these applications, all these apps, to everyone in the company, for which we were providing functionality, automation system functionality. And then we saw something interesting happen, and that was that the efficiency, the productivity was really rising because of this, because everyone was sort of informed of what was actually going on. Everybody was, you could say, able to take the decision. If possible, they could take the decision and go on, rather than just waiting for someone else to figure out that this was wrong, or starting to talk with other people and so on. So it was really a way to get the productivity to rise. And what we have done now is that we have started to look at this a little bit more in the perspective of what is collaboration? What are the components of collaboration when we talk about people, systems and equipment? And to simplify it, you could say, okay, this was what we were working with before, equipment to equipment collaboration. We had a PLC or a controller that took care of that, basically. But we saw that it's just as important to get systems to collaborate or people to collaborate to get productivity up. And the whole circle here, all of these kinds of collaboration is of real big importance if you want to raise your productivity, and that is really what companies is all about. When we then see that, then we started to think, okay, maybe it's a possibility to see how mature is a company when it comes to digitalization. So if you measure things that could give you hints of how this collaboration is working, then you can actually get to some kind of, well, a way of measuring how mature you are when it comes to your digital transformation. And you can also start to see, where do I have my strong points, where do I have my weak points? And that's very good to know if you want to go on to a digital journey, which most of our customers is actually all about now. But most, I would say, is just starting. There is cool technology, let's go with that and see what happens. That's a lot of the, so, and when you look at the technologies that are available, it's a huge amount of them. And really, if you now know that, okay, it's this kind of collaboration things we should actually work with, well, when you go on with a 5G project, what part of this are you solving? it's a very good way to try to figure out, do I do the right things or not? Especially if you want to see if, am I actually working on something where we have a problem, or is it just a cool technology? The other thing that is happening in the industry is things like Industry 4.0. Here you see an initiative from Germany, where they say that, well, we are going to leave this old world. Old world meaning that you have this hierarchy. We talked about it as the automation pyramid before. But the hierarchy where you sort of have your, you could say, mechanical products in the bottom, and you have your enterprise financial systems in the top, and then you had layers here, and when you communicate from your motor to your enterprise system, you maybe your maintenance management system, you had to go through the layers to actually get there. And, well, basically we've been working with this. It's a lot of work to just reach the next level here. And the more levels you try to cope with, the harder your problems is. Another thing is that they talk about, at this time, we had functions that were bound to hardware. So if I would like to, for instance, raise the power of the motor, I had to buy a new motor. And these kind of things limits the functionality. So we want to go to another kind of infrastructure. And this is what they look at as the infrastructure of the future. And that means that everything is networked. So in this case, when I want to have more horsepower in my motor, well, I just click a button and I get it, just as you do in a Scania truck when you go through the Alps. And these are things that are going to happen in the industry, and these are things that is also going to change the kind of motors that you have. Today you have a huge amount of different sizes of motors. Tomorrow you can have one size, and you press a button, and then you pay for what you get. So it's a lot of ways that you can actually get the cost down with help of these kind of new way of thinking, the IoT way of thinking in a way. The other things people are talking about is these digital twins, where you have your piece of equipment, you have basically an app in your phone or on your PC, and then you have some digital twin of your equipment in the cloud or in your server somewhere, and then you operate it in this environment. But, I mean, if you have a typical plant with 100,000 devices, and from 5,000 vendors, you know you will have 5,000 apps in your phone. It'll be a little bit tricky. And this is the kind of environment we've been living with for quite a while. So we've tried to see how can we cope with this problem. The other thing you could say, well, really you don't need these IoT things. But if you look at this, it's interesting because why do we create this IoT pieces of equipment? If you take just a simple IoT equipment like a lamp, you can say that, well, you talk about this ladder of functionality that you try to create, a lamp with an app that you can see if the lamp is on or off. Next level is when you have a lamp which you can operate. You can switch it on and off from your app. Next level is when you can start optimizing it. Say it should go on typically when it's in the night and should go off in the morning. But what everybody is striving for is this totally autonomous lamp. But why are we doing this? Anyone that has an idea? Why are we trying to make a lamp autonomous? That sort of sounds stupid, doesn't it? Why would Philips try to do an autonomous lamp?
Cost saving.
Yeah? But it's not really saving cost. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of things you have to put into the lamp to make it smart, isn't it?
Collaboration with our technical systems.
Yeah. Oh, well, basically, it's as simple as this. They want to sell lamps, of course. That's the reason. They want to sell their lamps. And if you don't have an autonomous lamp a few years from now, you will not sell lamps. So it's as easy as that. And then you start thinking, okay, maybe this is something that is valid for other things than lamps. So if we look at the car industry, for instance, is there anyone heard about the trial to get to an autonomous car? Compared with a lamp, this seems to be a little bit trickier. But it seems like it's even more companies trying to do this. Seems even more stupid, maybe. There are more lamps than cars in the world. But still they are going for this. And this really made us think that, well, maybe this is going to happen everywhere. And for us, it's important that if this happened with cars, with lamps, and when I was maybe it's almost 10 years ago, was in one of these IoT early conferences, was a guy coming in and said, oh, we already have a IoT X-ray for pulp and paper plants. It's a product that takes an X-ray photo of the incoming wooden chip, and then we can see if there is contamination, which kind of wood it is, with a lot of things we can do, and we can analyze it in the cloud. And we can even do things like learn from other installations to recognize new things. And suddenly we have a very good way of actually knowing what comes in. We can change the settings for the rest of the plant to be more efficient. So that's why we think it'll look like this everywhere. You'll just have this kind of IoT equipment in the plant. Every piece of equipment will be an IoT autonomous at some point in time, IoT equipment. And of course, it's very interesting to know that it will be like this in plants, because this is not the way it looks like today. And the other thing is that, well, some customers says, no, we cannot connect to the cloud. We'll never do that. But of course you will, if you get an autonomous paper machine instead of one that you have to have people, all the work. It will be connected to the cloud. And why will companies start to connect paper machines to the cloud? They want to sell paper machines, of course. And that is what drives this. So it will be there, just because of the simple reason you want to sell your equipment. So what about collaboration? How well, if you buy your smart lamps today, how well do they actually collaborate? Well, basically you should buy the same brand, because then you can even get your lights to turn on at the same time. That's almost the level you're at now. You get your Google Home, you might be able to turn on different brands of lamps somewhat, but as soon as you start to add some other things, then you get into a tricky situation, and you remember the plant here with 5,000 brands and 100,000 pieces of equipment. It'll be tricky, basically. But still, we need to get the collaboration to be better than before. But of course, if this one is autonomous, it has to collaborate. So they will solve it, probably. The other thing we took a look at, okay, what about this collaboration now when it comes to the things that are available in the industry? Here we have a lot of strange things, but it's different products that we use to actually work with the collaboration in plants. And different products then actually covers different areas of this collaboration spider web. And you can see here, this is the IoT system. It's very much focused on getting people to understand what a piece of equipment is doing. It doesn't really care about other pieces of equipment. So there is some, because the optimal way for equipment is to cover as big part as possible, because then you can actually run your plant with a high productivity. So, but what about these people, systems, and equipment collaboration? Well, basically, if you look at the motor, there is different systems, well, built for different people. So if I am a maintenance engineer, I have my system. If I am a production guy, I have my system, etc., etc. If I'm an electrical guy, I have my electrical system. And it's basically like this, that for a simple device, there is a lot of different systems involved. And it doesn't matter if it's a very small device, there is a lot of different systems involved. There's a lot of different systems involved in sort of, if you take a system perspective as well. And this is something that in Industry 4.0 and the Industrial Internet Consortium, which is which we could say the American counterpart to Industry 4.0, they have recognized that we have to solve this puzzle in some way. And what we have seen in the system I talked about a little bit in the beginning was that, well, basically we have had this problem before. We had this problem already in the plants, which we have been automating like 20 years. We had this problem, a lot of different systems, which we can then plug into a container that represents each and every piece of equipment. And then we get digital twins, but it's not that we get one. We get a digital twin in any of the apps that is really related to this. You have a digital twin, for instance, in your video surveillance system. When that looks at this temperature transmitter, you actually have a digital twin in the surveillance system. You have it in electrical drawings, etc., etc. All the different systems have that is related to have their twin. But what we do, we collect them together and put them into a container, and then we work with them. And that really makes it possible for people to understand better what is going on. So what we do is we take the things, we build an information model of the plant, and then we take all these ecosystems and integrate them into an environment where people then are working, so that they get really access to all this information that is in these systems. And this we have been doing for, well, quite a while, almost 20 years now. And, well, if you remember what we said, this collaboration drives productivity. But does it then? Then we already have productivity because of this, or? And that's actually what we can see. Boliden is one of the companies that has taken this to their heart and said, okay, let's go with this. We'll make all our equipment smart. This is a plot. This is the Boliden mine in Aitik. And they are basically 10% more productive than any of the other copper mines in the world, even though they are the ones that have the least copper in the ore that they dig out. Still, they are about 10% more productive. So it really works. So what they have done is that they have taken all their system and made intelligent equipment out of it, basically. What is coming now is that we see that, well, we will be able to make this equipment even smarter with the help of the cloud, because now there is completely new things you can do. You can have equipment that can buy its own spare parts. You have equipment that knows what the weather will be tomorrow. Equipment that can basically, well, you have machine learning, it knows where it is. So if somebody has to go there and service it, it knows where it is. So it's a lot of new functions that you can use to actually make equipment even smarter. And of course, if you want to make an autonomous equipment, it knows everything. It knows what the plant drawings look like, put the AI on that, and it'll start figuring out what is my purpose in life in this plant, and put the settings there and actually be an autonomous equipment. So there's a lot of possibilities with this. So this is where we think things will sort of end up with very smart things, which is their smartness comes from many different apps. And we will even increase this collaboration and make it more efficient than ever before. If we then look at the plant, what does it look like? Well, how will it actually look like when it comes to systems? Well, basically you will have all these IoT systems. One problem that we see today is that it is basically very hard to get a piece of equipment to communicate with the cloud because of the IT department in companies. And this is why we think that the 5G will be really an enabling technology for this. Because then you can go around the IT department, basically, so that you can get the smartness into the product. And this is actually what we see in the car industry already, that the cars, they are connected either you want it or not. And it will be the same with equipment. And the reason is that you want it because I want to have this autonomous paper machine. So that's the reason why the only way you can get it is that it is connected. So because of that, it will actually happen, and because it will be the easiest way for the manufacturer is to prepare the equipment to actually be connected. So, but of course, I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to solve on the way. The next thing you will see is that you will start to sell the equipment as a service. And what happens then is that not only do you have to have a local control center for this piece of equipment, you will have one in the cloud which actually takes care of the fleet of equipment, that this is in a lot of different installations by different customers to this paper machine manufacturer. So they will have these kind of centers that takes care of their fleet of paper machines. But of course, you need the collaboration, so there will be this kind of IoT collaboration systems as well that will actually make the plant work. And all these things that if you take a pump and a valve and you would like to have a flow, then you have to combine it in some way. So there is a system that combines them, and that builds on. So there will be also an area where we have these IoT collaboration systems. And the collaboration has to go over company borders. And all of this is just, it's just to do it. But of course, if you build these kind of systems, it's very good to have a map for what you're building, because otherwise you will never get there. And this, I think, is my final point. Before you go on your digital journey, try to make a map of where you're going. Because if you don't have a clue, you will never get there. You have to really know, and it's very tough in software, because in software you have any number of dimensions, an infinite number of dimensions to go wrong. It's not when you, if you go into your car and you know you're going to end up at a hotel, and if you just drive them without your navigator, you have a much, much better chance to see your hotel in your lifetime than if you go on a digital journey. So that's the final word. Thank you very much. This is what we should think about, collaboration. Comments? Questions? Yeah.
To Mikael.
Yeah?
Yep. I mean, I can see that this is pushing ABB towards a lot of software and services away from physical engineering. How does ABB stay competitive as a European company with such a lack of programming resources in this area?
Well, I mean, basically, I would say we have the same problem as, well, most of the companies today to get software resources. Yes, I mean, it's a big challenge to get software resources, but also software resources that can cope with these kind of problems, because it's not so easy to get all these systems to collaborate. On the other hand, we have been doing it for a while. It's just a little bit. It's new technology, which it actually makes it easier to do it. So that's the other hand of it. But of course, I mean, it's a challenge, and it will continuously be a challenge to get this right. And it will be a journey that will take us 10, 20 years to actually get to this plant with only autonomous equipment, for sure. Yeah?
Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you.